Hi everyone, I'm Courtney, and welcome to this new series about questions that are asked in a job interview. This series will explain how to answer 6 of the most commonly asked job interviews in the English-speaking world. We'll take a deep dive into each question, go over some examples of sample answers, and talk a little bit about why answering each question in a specific way can help you land your next job. In today's episode, we're going to start with a question that gets asked in every job interview. And that question is, tell me about yourself. This is one of the first questions that you will be asked if you're going to do a job interview in English. What are interviewers looking for when they ask you the question, tell me about yourself? First, interviewers are looking to see if you have a certain level of professionalism. The way you answer the question, tell me about yourself, creates a first impression for the interviewers. A lot of people make mistakes when answering the question, tell me about yourself. And today I'm going to give you a tip on how to answer this question in 3 easy steps. The method that you want to use when answering the question, tell me about yourself in a job interview, is to talk about your past, talk about your present, and talk about your future. This is an easy 3-step method that ensures that you let the interviewer know that you're a serious candidate for the role you're applying for. First, let's talk about the past. When you're talking about your past, things that you shouldn't include are things that are personal, like your family history, your medical history, your dating history. Anything that's not related to the job doesn't need to be included. Things that you should include are things that are relevant to this job. This shows the interviewer that you have past experience and skills that are applicable to the current role that they're trying to fill. For example, if you were applying for a role at a bakery, you might say, in the past, I have experience working with food. Or you might say, I have watched a lot of baking shows and I've learned a lot of specific techniques related to cake decorating. Your past experience doesn't have to be related to a job, but it should be related to the role that you're applying for. For example, if the role that you're applying for is a math teacher, you shouldn't say things about your past like, when I was younger, I was really bad at math. That's probably not going to be something that the interviewer wants to hear. The tricky thing about interviewers is knowing what to include and what to omit. When talking about your past, you can include relevant experience that you've gained from jobs, relevant experience that you've gained from the way you grew up, or relevant experience that you've gained from volunteer opportunities. All of this information about your past will help the interviewer to know that based on your past behavior, you might be an ideal candidate for the job you're applying for. The second part of this 3-step method is to talk about your present. What are you doing right now? Once again, don't include things about your personal life that aren't relevant to the position. So, for example, if right now you're going through a hard time, maybe your cat died, and maybe that's why you want to apply for a job, because you need money to pay for your cat's expenses, that's not something that you're going to want to include in the job interview. Instead, you should include personal relevant experience that you're currently going through that might be applicable to the role. It's important to include relevant experience that you're going through right now and focus on the specific skills related to the position. For example, if right now you work as a hairstylist and you're applying for a job in retail as a manager, you could say something like this. Right now, I work as a hairstylist. Throughout my day-to-day, I have to have a lot of interaction with customers and with fellow employees that are in the hair salon. Working as a hairstylist has helped me to improve my communication skills, and I feel that my communication skills would be a huge asset to this position as a retail manager. This will show the interviewer that you're very motivated and interested in the job and that you have the relevant experience related to the position. The third part of this method of answering the question, "Tell me about yourself," is to talk about your future. Interviewers aren't going to pick a candidate that talks about the job in a way that sounds like they just want the money. They want to know how the position fits into your daily routines and your overall goals. Interviewers look for candidates that have a lot of ambition and want to do their best work. That's why it's important when answering the part about the future that you include what your vision for your next 3 to 5 years looks like. You don't have to go into minute details, just a general overview of how this specific position will fit into your life and help you achieve your goals. For example, if you're applying to be a cook at a restaurant, you could say, "Right now, I'm a very good cook, but I don't have a lot of experience working as part of a team. This is something that I want to improve, and I feel like this role will help me be able to do that, because I'll have to work with many different people in the kitchen to make sure the food turns out great for the customer every time." This shows that you have ambition. It shows that you're working towards something, which in this case was working towards having better teamwork skills. You could also go on to say that you hope that someday in the future you might be able to open up your own food truck, or maybe even help the restaurant expand and open up their own food truck. It's all about tailoring your answer specifically to the role and the company that you're applying for. Another important thing to note is that your answer should touch on all 3 points, the past, present, and future, but only be around 60 to 90 seconds. If your answer is too short, it might not feel like you put enough thought into it, and if your answer is too long, the interviewer might start to get impatient or bored. Okay, now I'm going to give you 3 complete examples using this method. So, for example, if you're applying to be an art teacher, you could say something like this. "Well, in the past, I've always loved drawing and painting. Ever since I was very little, my parents supported me in creating artwork. Right now, I'm an accountant. It's a good job that provides me with a lot of financial stability, but it's not what I'm passionate about. My goal for the future is to be able to share my passions for art with other people. And that's why I think this role as an art teacher at your elementary school would be perfect." Okay, the second example. You're applying to be a firefighter. Here is what you could say. "In the past, growing up, I've played a lot of sports, and that has made me very physically fit. In my current role as a magician, I don't think my talents are being put to good use. Being a magician is fun, but it's not very practical, it doesn't really help people very much. I'm very dedicated and focused to my future goals, and I know that my physical fitness could be an asset in a role like this. That's why I want my future position to involve using my strength, my stamina, and my speed. And that's why I think I would be perfect for this role as a firefighter. The third example is applying to work at an animal shelter. When I was younger, I had a pet cat. The pet cat and I did everything together. She was my best friend. Losing my pet cat was one of the hardest things I had to go through in my life. Now, I have 4 cats. I love my cats a lot, and I've learned a lot about how to take care of animals through owning them. That's why I think I would be perfect for this position at an animal shelter. My future goals are to use what I've learned about taking care of animals to improve the world. And I think that this position at an animal shelter is the perfect way to do that. That's why I think you should consider me for this position. Can you see how in these 3 examples, the candidates explained their past, present, and future, and gave the interviewer a clear picture of their goals? Try this method for yourself. Pick a position, any position, and think about what your past, present, and future has to do with that position. Then practice out loud answers to these hypothetical scenarios. Practicing your interview answers before the interview is one of the best ways to ensure a successful interview. I hope you enjoyed listening to this video about how to answer the question, "Tell me about yourself." Remember, this is a series, so stay tuned for another episode where I explain how to answer a common interview question. I'm Courtney. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.